Now in session, I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. We're going to begin this meeting with a word of prayer. We're going to follow the prayer with the Pledge of Allegiance. And we'd like to ask that everyone who's able, please stand with us. Ask Mr. Allen Zipper if he'll open us.
Gracious Heavenly Father, watch over us tonight as we conduct business for Effingham County and its citizens. Be with all our servicemen and women and all our first responders and keep us safe.
Yes, Lord.
And safe travels through this holiday weekend. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
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 I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Zipper. Ms. Dunnigan, our agenda, is there any items that need to be added or deleted?
Yes, good evening. Items 12, 13, and 14 are withdrawn for this evening. They've been postponed by request of the applicants.
All right. Anything further?
That's it.
All right. Call for a motion to approve this agenda with the noted changes.
So moved.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So, for anyone that doesn't have an agenda, item number 12 is Oleg Mitnick requesting to rezone 9.7 of 14.99 acres. This is on Highway 21. That has been withdrawn. And then two items, number 13 and 14 from Tanishala Kelly, which was rezoning the industrial rezoning on Goshen Road Extension. Items 13 and 14 as well were removed. If there's anyone here for any of those.
What about item 15? Is that postponed?
No, sir.
So on mine it says postponed.
That,
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, it was postponed from last
Oh,
time.
postponed from prior, okay. Being reheard tonight.
Sir, do you have a question?
Is there a reason why they were postponed?
Ms. Dunnigan, can you answer that question?
they were postponed by request of the applicant.
Is it going to be coming back on?
Which item are you referring to?
I'm sorry, 13 and 14?
13 and 14, I have not heard back from the applicant as to whether that will be the next agenda. But as far as we know, it's still an active application.
Will it come to the planning before it goes to commission?
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am. The same process will take place.
Can I at this time, when I'm a property owner right near this property, in past, when there's something going on around the property, we were always notified by letter. We have not been notified by this, and I've talked to other property owners in the area, and none of us were notified of the upcoming zoning.
What's that distance, Ms. Dunnigan?
200 feet.
200 feet. So everyone within 200 feet gets a letter, or supposed to get a letter.
None of us did.
So, and I apologize. I mean, sometimes the letters don't make it where they're supposed to. That's the reason we have signs, and also the reason it's advertised in the paper. We have 3 ways of trying to advertise it so the people do get the letter. But
If we hadn't seen the posted sign on the property, we wouldn't have known.
yes, sir. Okay. So, I mean, before the next meeting, if you'd like to check in with the county, I mean, I'm sure they can tell you whether it's going to be on the agenda or not.
Meeting would be in December or January?
It's going to be
December 19th.
Yes, sir. Plan scheduled for December 19th.
Okay, very good, sir.
Is there anything else?
No.
Minutes from October 17th. Any corrections or additions? Call for a motion to approve these minutes.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Higgins. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So tonight, when your item of concern is called, we asked you would come forward to the podium. We'd ask that you would state your name as well as sign your name for the record. Items that are approved as well as denied will move forward to the commissioners. We have one item under old business. It was tabled from our last meeting. Item number 1 is a public hearing for Val Bartal, excuse me, as agent for Andrea L. Alsbrook, requests a conditional use to allow for an events venue located in 1900 McCall Road. This is zoned AR1. Ms. Katie, do you have any comments at this time?
Yes, so this application is for conditional use to replace a current conditional use for the Waters Estate, which is an event venue. What we're talking about tonight is an application made by the future owners. It was tabled to address some concerns that residents had, including noise. The applicant has reached out to neighbors, and in your packet, you'll see there's a letter of actions that the applicants are prepared to take in order to better be in conformance with the ordinance as it governs events venue. And staff is recommending approval.
All right, thank you, ma'am. Is there anyone that wishes to speak on behalf of Mr. Bartel or Ms. Alsbrook? Yes, sir.
Good afternoon, Josh Yellen here today on behalf of the applicant. I will apologize if my voice goes out. It's a bad condition to have for my line of work, but it's been coming in and out lately. But do want to report back that since our last time before you, at this board's request, this item was continued, and since that meeting, even immediately following this planning board meeting, the applicant started meeting with the neighbors in order to make improvements and to figure out what can be done to better this site so that the new applicant can come in, purchase the property, and continue the existing operations as the approved event venue. Just for everyone's recollection, this event venue was approved in 2018, specifically as an event venue, and the site has been built out as such. You heard the public comments at the prior meeting regarding the concerns from what we took away with it, and from the follow-up meetings was that there was issues related to the dust, noise, entryway. In the letter that is before you in the packet, we will be working with professionals to put down new gravel on that site to mitigate the conditions, to enclose the barn, to eliminate the noise concerns, and so we are happy to come back before you. We did meet with the neighbors, and we're willing to make these changes to ensure that this event venue can continue and continue to be successful and continue to be a good neighbor to the residents of the area. And I'm happy to answer any questions that y'all may have.
All right, thank you. Questions, comments at this time? So is there a plan for like an on-site manager to be there?
Yes, as part of the letter, we are going to have an on-site manager at all times during the events.
Okay, I'm sorry, I see number 6 now. Yes. So I guess after the last meeting, you're very aware with the rules, and so is the new owner.
Yes, sir. I think everyone's on high alert and knows that they have to be on their best behavior.
Do we have positive feedback from the community at large that was against it?
I know that some of them are here, so I don't want to take words out of anyone's mouth, but we did have the meetings. We had the meeting immediately following the hearing, and then the applicants themselves have been meeting with people on site, even as recently as, I believe, last week. And they've been visible, they've been present. I think some of these meetings were impromptu, just saw people on site and struck up a conversation, so.
All right, it's handled well.
Is there any?
I think my question will be more for staff, just related to this list of things they're willing to do in the letter. Do we need to make that specifically, not saying I'm making a motion one way or the other, obviously, yet, but just understand what we need to do to make sure, if we want those to be included, what do we need to do to make sure they are in the recommendation? I just didn't see it specifically listed in the alternative, so.
And I
we
guess
can
you're
come back.
referring to the 6 items?
That's right,
listed
yeah,
out,
I just, since that was offered up there by the applicant, and just want to make sure it's clear.
I mean, I think, at that time, if that's where your motion is, that you could reference those 6 items in your motion.
Seemed like the big thing was noise and dust, wasn't it?
Yeah. So is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening, Carlotta Chandler. I live in 1850 McCall Road, and I would like to say a few things. Unfortunately, we were not able to attend the meeting that they had, but they were aware about our concern, mainly the sound, because it was hitting very hard. I agree with Mr. Thompson. I would like that whatever is listed in this letter, which is a very good step forward on negotiation and talking, but I would like to be more specific on time, and I like the idea that they're putting their own sound system, but that means only that the renter is not gonna bring their own sound system, so it doesn't give me any security on that they're gonna check the decibel and where is the sound system is gonna be oriented. So I would like to that the board is gonna add on the permit these specifics, like it's not gonna go over 60, I believe, decibel that is allowed, or whatever for the, I guess it's a residential zone. So whatever the law says, I would like that to be stated in the permit, so we have something to look forward and follow. They suggested some speed bumps. We would like to increase the number of speed bumps and the location, because I don't know if you have, do you have that, this card that is?
Yes, Miss, on the
Oh,
screen.
okay. So there's one at the beginning, at the entrance, and there's one right before the exit for the long road that connect to McCall Road. We would like to have more inside, and I'm pretty sure that the discussion is still open, so, but it's something that I want to bring up, and if we have chance to talk with the new buyer, that would be great about it. Well, I said about the sound system, that really doesn't give me any warranty on the check of the sound. Well, that's it. Everything comes back on being very detailed on the permission that you're granted. Be very specific on the time that the event close. So if there's a time limit and decibel. Because I know there's plenty of action that you can put in place in order to accommodate everybody needs. There's also something else that I want to bring up. I don't know if this is the right place where to bring it up, and I'm sure you know what I'm talking about. There's something that happened on the night of 29th of October. We had an event, and we sent a complaint on email. Is something that I can discuss about it here, or should I address it?
If it pertains to this
Yes, so
this venue.
I called the sheriff department on 29 October because I was trying to put my kids to sleep, and I have I can clearly hear loud music inside my house. I was told to the dispatcher that a judge put an order in place that forbids the sheriff department from sending anyone to the venue for noise complaints, regardless of how loud it was and the time of the event taking place. So nothing happened. The event kept going on until, I guess, midnight, and everyone around heard it very loud. The morning after, that sounds a little off to me, so I call again, and I call again the sheriff office, and I talk with Sergeant Strauss. And I was told that due to the large number of complaints regarding 1800 McCall Road, that the issue was brought before the state court. The judge presiding over the issue determined that due to the county commissioners granting a permit license to hold events at that location, the owner and venue are exempt from state and local regulation regarding noise, and therefore the sheriff department cannot do anything about it. He informed us that the only people that can do anything are the county commissioners, since that is who issue the permit to begin with. So we informed Mr. Deloach.
So this board is the planning and zoning board,
Mm-hmm.
and we're appointed, the county commissioners are elected, and that'll be the step after this.
Oh, okay.
This board will be merely a recommendation to the commissioners.
Oh, okay.
So there'll be another meeting.
Oh, so this is not the case. But I'm pretty sure I added the other county commissioner. Probably you received that email.
Yes.
Can you confirm that? Or if not, I will resend it.
The email, did you get an
Fine.
email? No. Mr. Deloach?
I sent it to Mr. Deloach and all the other member of the commissioner, so probably was you.
No, no ma'am, that would be the county commissioners, not the planning commission.
Oh, okay.
We're the planning
Oh.
commission, so the next meeting, Mr. Deloach and the other county commissioners will,
Okay, then I apologize.
That's
I
okay.
misunderstood. Well, we didn't have any follow-up, so I guess I will bring it up to the next one.
so while you're there, Ms. Dunnigan, I mean, can you reference the number on that, on the, ordinance, like where it pertains to sound, time, decibels?
So there are a few different places, and let's see. Section 5.1.2.10 governs venues and does discuss noise and also operating times, which means that it shuts down at 11. There's nothing to occur between 11 and 9 in the morning. We also have section 30-36 of the ordinance that talks a great deal about noise and has that decibel chart. Code enforcement and sheriff deputies are by the ordinance. Noise control officers. The complaints that you have raised is being looked into. I will not speak on behalf of the sheriff, but certainly if there is a noise complaint and it is in the evening, that would be the place to call.
Okay, thank you. So going back to the chart of the sound level limit, which one should I refer to? The residential one? Is divided by commercial and business and residential.
If you feel that sound is loud, you would need to, again, call the sheriff's department. They would be able, I believe, to come out with a decibel reader and measure that for you.
Okay, but which one is the level that I'm referring to? The 60-50 for residential?
Commercial business, correct?
Correct.
So it would
Okay.
be the commercial business.
Okay, thank you, sir.
And you have that information?
Oh, yes, I do. Thank you.
And ma'am, I believe there was someone that was coming for the meeting that was running late.
Yes, he's here, he made it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request?
Good evening. I was the one running late, sorry.
Here, hey, good evening.
My name's Steve Perry. I live at 1780 McCall Road. As most of you are aware, I spoke up a lot in our meeting we had previously about my concerns with dust, the road, the noise, the length of time that it carries on. We did meet with the potential owners, and I am grateful that they sat down and spoke with us. We couldn't get anywhere with the previous owner, other than I'm gonna do what I want to do, deal with it. So thankfully, they have sat down with us and have come up with a list of concerns that we had and that they would address. The gravel on the road to help minimize the dust is huge, especially for me, because it wraps around the back of my property. I'm just a little concerned about, we don't know what the aggregate is that they're using, and the maintaining of that. If we're, I mean, we're talking, we call it a road, but it's a path to the rear. But anyway, just how that's going to be maintained. I like that kind of more defined. I don't think they have someone that's looking at what type of gravel, but we just don't know. And I don't know how, how well is it going to hold up. So that's one. Two, getting back to the noise, they have proposed to enclose that pavilion part, turn the sound system back the other way, which I think will help tremendously. Having someone present to manage, the way if it does get out of control, we can go talk to and say, hey, can you at least turn it down? Rather, we don't have to call the sheriff's department. That's huge. So, once again, thankful to them. They've agreed to put up fence, which, like my concern with my grandchildren, with people flying up down that road, that will help keep, hopefully, my grandchildren off the road or any other children that live in that area. So that's a plus. I'm trying to think what else. Anyway, they're willing, it appears, to work with us, which if you're at least trying to work with us, then I'm not going to stand up here and down it. Time is an issue because we were midnight one night with them still loud music, and as was said, we called the sheriff's department and they would not come. They were told, a judge told them no, they can't go. I spoke to Jamie DeLoach, one commissioner, and I spoke to our commissioner, Region 3, 3rd District is
Reggie Leper.
yes, and they said they would address it, I guess, at the next meeting. So that's my main concern, is that we're not midnight out there with. But I think all the things put in place are going to minimize a lot of our concerns, and hopefully we can get some of this more clarity as to, like, the gravel, what type, how you're going to maintain it. If you put 200 cars down this thing, at some point in time, the aggregate is going to break down, and we're going to be back to dust issues. So that's my main concern. But other than that, thankful for them for sitting down and at least discussing and trying to work this out with us. I appreciate that. So that's.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request? Yes, ma'am.
Good evening. Kim Stallnaker for Andrea Allsbrook, the current owner. Just a couple of things to address about the noise. I would like to reference loud noise ordinance 30-36C8 and 30-37. 3036 says loud noise, but if you jump down to C, the provisions of this section shall not apply or be enforced against. And if you come down to number 8, outdoor gatherings, public dances, shows, and sporting events, and other similar outdoor events, provided that a permit has been obtained from the appropriate permitting authority, which Ms. Allsbrook does currently have, and the potential new owner is seeking the same permit. So if they are held to the commercial decibel, the sound level limits, commercial from 7 a.m. to 9 p.m. is 70 decibels. And then in the evening, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., it drops down to 60. Now, I did provide Ms. Allsbrook's contract. And if you go to page 2, the event times, her contract state, and her patrons are required to sign this, all entertainment must shut down by 11 p.m. All county noise ordinances and quiet times must be followed. So I believe whenever I was here the last time, I asked how many calls, how many noise complaints had been made, And it was suggested that we get the open records request, which we did. There were 3 total calls the time that we called and requested the records. One was for a vehicle fire, which had nothing to do with the event venue. It was just something that happened on the property. And then there were 2 noise complaints. Both complaints were made before the 11 p.m. because that's what her contract calls for, even though the county ordinance, they could go on a little bit later. But there were 2 complaints, and they were early in the evening. Nothing was like late or anything like that. And then about the traffic, I work events, and I don't know if you are all aware, but the maximum capacity for the event is only 125 people, and that's because of the current septic system. So the potential new owners are seeking the same permit. 125 people, let's just be generous and say it's 2 persons per vehicle. That would be roughly 62.5 cars per event. And then you would have, your vendors. So you would have a caterer. You would have your table and chair rental. You would have your DJ. You would have florals. You might have a cake delivery. So the traffic, and this would only typically be on the weekends. It's not like, 7 days a week. So there is traffic because it's a venue, but as 200 cars in and out, that's just, not happening because their capacity is only 125 at this current time. So, I just wanted to maybe clarify some things. Just food for thought, I guess, as you're considering this. So,
Thank you, Ms. Stallnaker.
let me sign it.
Mr. Yellen, did you wish to address any of those points? Yeah, I will allow you in just a moment, sir.
Yes, sir. Just did want to reiterate that with the new owner coming in, we do want to continue the dialogue with the neighbors. We understand that the noise ordinance can say one thing, and then we also have the event venue permit, but we want to be there for the long haul. We want to have a good relationship with the neighbors. We know that we have the conditions that we've laid out that we think are good common sense approaches that are going to make the event venue better, but also be a better neighbor. So once that barn is enclosed, once we have the sound system in place, we are happy to keep that dialogue going to make sure that it's functioning the way that we intend to do it. I did just want to bring up the one comment regarding the speed bump, if I may, only because applicant did look at installing additional speed bumps. Some other neighbors did not want additional speed bumps just because of the additional thumping from the cars that, yes, it might cause people to slow down, but it also might in turn cause a noise problem by having additional noises with people coming and going. But they did look into it, and we thought that providing the 2 speed bumps in the locations that they were was a reasonable approach to both reduce the speed of the people coming and going, but also minimizing some of the concerns as it related to the noise. But we are happy to keep the dialogue going and to make this venue function in a way that's good for everyone. So thank you.
And one quick question. I mean, so you've signage, I don't know. Signage is, adding some extra signage as far as speed, slowing down, thought. Has there been any conversation about creating some sort of buffer back there, a planting or something, because it is an open field, an open air type thing? Was that part of a conversation?
It was part of the conversation to increase some of those buffers there and to get some vegetation, because we know it's pretty barren right now. We thought that, I think one of the quickest approaches, I know that we had in here that the list would be completed by June 16th, 2023. I think we're fully understanding that even if they were to come in and try and do some additional plannings, it's going to be a few years before that would have any sort of tangible benefit to the neighbors. But it is something that they are looking at because it would obviously beautify the space as well and be a benefit to the neighbors. So that would be a win-win, but I don't think it happens quickly enough to make anyone happy in the short term.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, very quickly.
Yes, Steve Perry again. I wanted to come in here tonight and really be positive because of at least the conversations we've had about our issues and the willingness it seems that the new owners want to work with us. But after the comments that I don't think there's anyone out there counting vehicles to tell me how many vehicles go up and down that road. I live out there. I don't think the people, other people talking live out there. I experience it. The dust is an issue, whether it's 1 car, 10 cars,
Yes, sir. I mean,
or
so,
20 cars.
So can I just say,
It's just frustrating.
yes, sir, I get it. And that wasn't an absolute number of how many cars. It was an absolute number of how many people are allowed, but not how many cars. You know, and as far as the calls go, I mean, I think hopefully you and everyone out there is moving from what is today to what is tomorrow. And hopefully that's a different outlook, and these new plans, thoughts, ideas, everybody knowing what's going on, hopefully is going to make
Absolutely.
something
And
that
as
everybody can live with.
And as I said, I wanted to be positive about this, but you know, we know what time these events carry on out there. When I spoke to Jamie Deloach, they looked into the permit that was issued to Miss Alsbrook, and evidently there was a mistake made, and there were no restrictions on that permit, and that's not to be.
Well, we're trying to address that.
Right. Okay.
Yes, sir.
Good deal.
Thank you. So any questions or comments from the board this time? I mean, Katie, I just want to be clear, we are, because, I mean, it's been said several times, this section 30-37, that is the noise ordinance that they're going to comply to?
Correct, as far as decibels go and the time chart therein.
Because, I mean, over in 3036, I mean, B says any noise that exceeds the decibel thresholds in section 3037 is presumed to violate this article. So, I mean, I read commercial or business and those two timeframes and those two decibels as what, you know, the new owner is going to have to adhere to, correct?
That is absolutely correct, as well as the full list of
Everything else.
restrictions in the event venue ordinance, which were part of the current owner's conditional use approval as well.
Can I ask just one
Yes, sir.
follow-up, just to make sure, number 8 there, this conditional use permit is not a permit that exempts them from that sound ordinance then?
That is my interpretation, that in no way would the conditional use itself exempt them from sound ordinance.
I mean, the way I read it, B trumps it, because B says, you know, if it exceeds this threshold, it is presumed to violate this article. I mean,
I just want to make sure it's
you know, I mean, I
clarified.
get it, it kind of,
Trying to
I
get
mean,
its way in that
I
before
see
the
how
commission
a lot of this is read, and I want us to be very clear.
It clearly says it violates it if it exceeds.
I mean, how much of a noise differential is between 60 decibels and 50 decibels, which is what the residential has to have between 9 PM and 7 AM, and that's when all of the hoot and hollering goes on, between 9 and 7.
50 is
I mean,
normal conversation, and 70 is traffic.
So in residential, it's 70, and so this is gonna be a little bit over. 60 is the minimum from 9 to 7. So, I mean, why don't we just say it has to go down to 50?
Well, I mean, you can say what you want, or you can stick with the ordinance. So, is there any further discussion? Questions?
If we make a motion, do we have to list our actions individually, or just can we say these 6 actions that are brought forward by the new owner?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you can reference the 6 items. If nothing further, I'll call for a motion.
All right, I'm going to make a motion to approve with the 6 actions that's going to be taken by the new owners and following all local county ordinances.
All right, I have a motion for approval. Does everyone understand? Any discussion?
Yeah.
Call for a second.
I'll second.
Second, Mrs. Zipper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. So once again, this is a recommendation to the county commissioners, which is December the 19th,
No,
Maybe.
December 6th.
December 6th. It's going to be changed,
Our plan.
maybe. Okay, December 6th for the county commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Yellen. All right, moving on to new business. Item 1 is a public hearing for Kevin Schuman and Terry Cook request to rezone 14.83 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a 3-lot subdivision located at 5575 Old Dixie Highway. Ms. Dunnigan?
Yes, thank you. The applicants are desiring to create 2 additional home sites for a total of a 3-lot subdivision. The 2 front parcels will then be under the 5-acre minimum threshold for AR1 zoning. They also request the rear parcel to be AR2. There is a great deal of wetlands on this property, so that would be advantageous to any future building setbacks. Staff is recommending approval.
All right. Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Yes, sir.
Somebody's going up.
I'm Terry Cook. I'm one of the owners. Me and my brother-in-law are just trying to build houses for me and him on the front half because the wetlands is the back part. So we're just trying to get this split up so we can put houses on it, our personal houses.
So what's going to happen to the back that's wet?
We're just gonna use it to hunt,
Okay, okay.
farm a little bit, have an orchard maybe. It's just per person. I don't know how it got to the 3 parcel subdivision. I mean, we can't put anything back there. So we're just trying to put our 2 houses up front.
Gotcha. Okay. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against? Questions, comments? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, sir. Item 2 is a public hearing for Jimmy McDuffie as agent for Jimmy and Wanda McDuffie and Frankie Edwards. Request to rezone 6.67 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a recombination of parcels located on Highway 119 North, 3rd District. Ms. Dunnigan?
Yes, so as you can see in this is what it looks like currently. There are these 3 non-conforming AR1 lots, and then one still non-conforming larger AR1 lot. The short version of the story is that it's going from that configuration to 2 strip form conforming AR2 lots for residential use. Staff is recommending approval.
So that's a easement going to the back? To the back
Yes, that is an
point
existing
85
easement.
Existing easement.
Yes. Right now, it runs through 3 parcels, and this would unify it all into 1.
All right. Questions, comments? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Approval. Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 3 is a public hearing for Sheldon Thibault as agent for Randall Thibault and the estate of Patricia Thibault. Request to rezone 1.46 of 82.84 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for a recombination of parcels located at 1271 and 1273 Highway 21. This is the 4th district. Ms. Katie?
Yes, the applicant is asking to basically take 0.45 acres from this larger AR1 parcel and combine it with an existing 1 acre non-conforming parcel. Because the parcel in total will be less than 5 acres, it needs to be rezoned to AR2. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Good evening, sir.
Hello. Hey, I'm Randall Tebow, and I'm speaking, I guess, in favor of this. I had that acre of land for, since, I guess, 1985, we had it changed. It was AR1. My mom passed away. She gave me enough to pull in enough to kind of square up our land there. And then we went to do all the deeds and everything else. They said it had to be rezoned to AR2, so I guess it's just got to go because of size-wise, but anyway.
Okay. Thank you, sir. Questions, comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, sir. Item 4 is a pond. Ernest Zipper requests approval for a pond less than 1 acre located at 835 Horsepen Road. This is the 4th district. Ms. Dunnigan.
Thank you very much. Just a second.
I'm Ernest, and I'm doing this. I didn't really realize I had to have a permit to dig less than an acre ponds. That's why we're here now.
All right, sir. You gonna remove the dirt?
Yes,
Yep.
it's going on the parkway.
Going on Parkway. Gotcha.
So yes, this location is a GDOT approved borrow source. So the applicant has submitted for rezoning for the full scope of the project. And the pond less than 1 acre is to get things started in the meantime.
All right. Question, comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second. All those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item number 5 is a public hearing for Ernest Zipper, request to rezone 80.90 acres from R1 to AR1 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel located at 835 Horsepen Road. Ms. Dunnigan?
The applicant is requesting to combine 80.9 acres that are currently zoned R1 from a subdivision that was approved in 2006 but not developed. He's trying to condense to one tax bill. Since he's trying to combine 2 differently zoned parcels, they need to match, and staff recommends approval.
Thank you, ma'am. Is that about right?
Right, true. And I have no intentions of doing anything but just leaving it as is. I'm doing this strictly for tax purposes.
Okay.
Make life simple, because I have several parcels right there together, smaller. I'm just trying to combine them.
Okay.
This one and the next one you fixing to read. Same case scenario.
Question, comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against? All right, call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, Mr. Higgins. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 6 is a public hearing for Ernest Zipper, request to rezone 14.82 acres from AR1 to AR2 to allow for combination with an adjacent parcel located at 1796 Blue Jay Road. Ms. Katie?
This is just like the item before. This is a combination for tax purposes. Therefore, in order to combine the AR1 and the AR2 parcels, they need to have the same zoning. Staff is recommending approval.
Is it?
Same case scenario, yeah.
All right. Questions, comments? Anyone else wish to speak? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Thompson. All those in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, Mr. Zipper.
Have a good one.
You too, sir. Item 7's public hearing. Gregory Edward Smithy requests a conditional use for a rural business located at 631 Ebenezer Road, Zone AR2. This is the 5th district. Ms. Dunnigan?
Greg Smithy.
Yes, the applicant has an existing business that he's trying to make right by applying for a rural business. The business is basically bait and tackle and some small-scale retail resale. He does fall short of the 3-acre minimum for rural business. However, the parcel next door belongs to family. It is his daughter's and was originally his, and she has agreed to allow it to be considered to meet that threshold. The applicant is going to operate daylight hours only, Monday through Saturday, and approximates a maximum of 6 cars during peak hours, which will be pulled well and off the road. Staff recommends approval.
I'll give away more than I sell.
Gotcha. Do you have anything to add to that, sir? That's about right. Questions or comments from the board? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
Make a motion for approval with staff recommendation.
Motion for approval. Is there a second? Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, sir. Now, does he have to come, is that a rural?
There's a rural business. He'll have to come
He will,
on the
okay.
6th to the commissioner meeting.
Item 8 is a public hearing for Caitlin Rapp, requests a variance from the required square footage of livable space necessary for a dwelling located at 4302 Old Dixie Highway, zoned AR2. This is the 3rd district. Ms. Dunnigan.
Yes, the applicant is seeking to build a home that, because of the height of the loft area, cannot be counted as habitable space by building code. It does not meet the 525 square foot thresholds. The applicant finds the storage loft space to be suitable to her needs as habitable, and if it were to be included, the dwelling in total would be 537 square feet, which would make it good. The parcel itself is AR2. She is proposing to set back the building 50 feet from the front. And this sort of situation is something that staff frequently gets inquiries about. This applicant is the first person to bring it forward through the variance process. Staff is recommending approval.
Why can't you count the storage space?
Because building code says, yeah, it has to be 6'8".
Maybe she's short. Questions, comments?
Is it an actual stick-built home, or is it a tiny house that's being brought to that
It-
property?
It would be called a tiny house. It's a tiny house. So it would be permitted similar to a mobile home in that it's, assembled off-site and has HUD sticker.
I thought we had a district for the tiny houses.
We do not. Greenbridge, that was a discussion, as sort of a test there, but
I think there was like a place like that.
Good evening.
Good evening. Hi. So to answer your question about what it's built, it's a stick-built tiny home. So it's built to HUD standards. It's just smaller. So literally, if I could just count the loft as livable space, it would meet the square footage easily. I don't need a big 1,400 square foot home for just myself. Trying to just live on my property, get my little house on there, live debt-free, and, live peace and quiet. Yes. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that's all I really want to do. And I know that tiny homes are a good alternative for people who can't afford a traditional home, especially like single income families. like myself. So that's just another reason that I want to do it. That's it.
Is there anyone else that wishes to speak either in favor or against? Thank you, ma'am. I mean, if it's her house and her land, what do I do?
I'm Jimmy Rutland. I'm the president and CEO of Habitat for Humanity. This is a concept that we've been looking for in our business, home ownership for low-income families. Low-income families is not as low income as some people think. In Kate's case, HUD defines low income for a single-family person as someone that makes less than $47,000 a year. So that's not, they have to be able to afford to pay for the home and all that kind of stuff in our program. Tiny homes, which is what she's ventured into, is a concept that we're looking at to add to our portfolio. So we're encouraging the board and the commissioners to go forward with this so that we could do this. Right now, there's no difference in, this isn't a high-density thing. This is just a single-family home on a pretty good-sized lot. And in her case, it will make her debt-free as opposed to having been paying a home payment by herself for years. So, and we'd like to see this approved so we can possibly do more.
Thank you, Mr. Rutland. Questions, comments from the board? Is there anyone else wishes to speak? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the staff recommendations.
Motion to approve. Is there a second? Okay, Ms. Zipper, all those in favor of approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 9 is a public hearing for Jeffrey Harden as agent for Harrison Clark, AL Junior Trustee. Let's see, it's trustee. Request to rezone 11 plus or minus of 106.35 acres from R1 to I1 to allow for the expansion of a surface mine located on Low Ground Road, First District. Ms. Dunnigan?
Yes, the applicant is requesting to expand an existing state permitted mine known as the Ale Pit by 11 plus minus acres. The next item is going to be very similar. Oops, excuse me. It's going to be very similar and is going to deal with the parcel next to it. Same expansion, same existing pit. Staff is recommending approval.
Thank you, ma'am.
Good afternoon.
Good evening.
We operate the Ale Pit. My name is Jeffrey Harden. I own Harco Construction. We opened this pit in 2016. The property line there's a property line through the middle of the pit, and there's two siblings that own the property, Clark Ale and Donna Shrum. She was the Ale. We have dug through the first two phases. We're going to expand into a third phase and just trying to expand the pit. The owners put the remaining balance of their property in CUVA back when we did it the first time. So in order to not go through a CUVA breach again like we did this time, we're just trying to go ahead and rezone the whole parcel, make it a little simpler for them in the future. We don't anticipate any changes in absorption rate or sales. You know, so nothing's really changing, just trying to get a larger area to dig.
Questions, comments at this time?
What is that, Mr. Harden? Is that sand or is that just dirt?
Just field dirt, nothing special, no sir.
Is that what ale means in this word, Ale Pit?
That's their last names. That was the family name was Ale.
Okay, I was thinking that maybe it was a
Valuable ore.
yeah, a valuable ore. We need some ale out of that place. Okay, thank you, Jeff.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak? Yes, sir. Good evening.
How y'all doing? My name's Ferris Floyd. My address is 138 Dasher Road, but Low Ground is in front of my home. Dasher is beside my home. First thing, the main issue is, what is the long-term plan for this 106 acres, and plus or minus, I mean, does that mean that they can add extra land to it, or do we have to come back here before they can do that? Are we talking about 11 acres for sure?
I mean, the map we have on one side is proposed 11.04 acres. The other is 11. I think it's just a matter of getting the final survey. It's gonna be very, very close. I mean, it's not gonna go from 11 acres to 30 acres, if that answers your question.
Well,
Or 20 acres.
The thing is I don't propose to tell anyone what to do with their land. But I'm trying to build my family a place where my grandkids can live. So, you know, if when they're finished, what are they gonna do with this huge pit of water? Is it gonna stay a lake? Is it gonna be filled in somehow? Do we know that?
Right.
Well, they'll have to submit a reclamation plan that comes back and softens the slopes back, from what I understand from the state permit requirements. And then from, once it's done, I think the staff report even refers to it, reverts back, the zoning would revert back to AR1 zoning. So
That's what my neighbors and I understood. The issues we have are nothing that's, I mean, live or die. It's just, I don't even go out to Blue Jay. I've lived in this area for about 33 years. I grew up in Eden. But I've known the folks that live here, the Dashers and the Browns. I've known those people all my life. So, you know, we're kind of close-knit community. But I can't go out that road anymore because it's so rough and the dust is so bad. I've had 2 back surgeries, so I just go out the other end. But when they haul in the crush and run, when there's a certain wind, it just blows right down the road. And I mean, there's white dust on everything. One of my concerns is, are they gonna have a new entrance to this? See, I understand where this is because it's right in front of my house. So I hear the tailgates banging at 7:30 in the morning because that's how the dump trucks get the extra dirt out of their truck. I hear that, I hear the beepers, and it's every day. We put up with that. I put up with the flooding of the back of my land when they were building the first part of this pit. There's 3 supply ditches that run across Low Ground Road and come to the back. Well, one of them floods the back of my property, which I don't use it. It's low. It's like swamp, so I have no problem with that. What I have a problem with is the dust and the road, and what can we do about it? I mean, it just keeps getting worse and worse. I've called my commissioner about it. He don't return calls. I called the county about it. You know, it seems like it may be, whose problem is it? Is it the county's problem? Is it the Ale Pit problem? Who's gonna fix our road and when?
So to answer one of your questions, I mean, this is an expansion of the existing pit.
Yes, sir.
So, you know, there's no new entrance proposed.
Okay.
I know maybe Mr. Harden can speak to this, but I know run water trucks and things, try to keep the dust down.
Rare, very rare.
Well.
I've lived there 33 years. I've lived there before this pit ever started, and I've seen them put water on the actual road at Low Ground at the end of it twice.
Well, the water would only come due to Mr. Harden's operations. From the county road into the pit. You know, he can't be in control of the county surface. I don't know. I mean, I hate to ever pass these things off to the county commissioners, but that is a question for them whenever this moves to the next step as to what is the future of that road as far as being resurfaced, you know, reclamation, whatever. So don't know if that answers any of your questions or not.
Well, the main question was, you know, are they going to keep the same entrance, which is gated, you know? But the way the pit is, it kind of goes in at an angle, which when they're working is just a little bit of woods in between us.
Right.
So, you know, all that dust is there. The noise, you know, you're going to have noise. We can live with that. The trucks, they've been great about not coming down on our end of the road. They're really good. Some of the other guys do it on a pit on the other side of the road, but from the ale pit, they don't. So they're really good guys about not tearing up the road on the other end. But like I say, my main concern is the dust. I can't breathe that stuff. I've had cancer. I've had my radiation. I can't breathe that dust. So all I ask is somehow deal with the dust. And I wish someone would look at the end of our road because somebody's going to get hurt there. There's gravel, and when you pull up to the stop, half the time you slide, but there's a huge cloud of white dust. And on both sides of the road, it's all over the trees, the bushes, and we're breathing that stuff. And have been for years. So I'm not here to cause any trouble. I'm just want to be able to go out in my yard when they're working.
I understand. Yes, sir.
So that's.
We'll try to get some of those concerns addressed. Does anybody have anything they wish to add to this?
I would just add, I mean, there's erosion control measures that are beyond just stormwater, and part of that's air, and there are erosion control, like what you're talking about, that is dust is part of that same permit that they acquire, right? So there are measures in place that the state has standards that if there's things that need to be tweaked or looked at, that construction entrance needs to be cleaned out to where it can actually pull the dirt off their tires and add gravel, then I mean, that's part of the permit that they've got. So you certainly have the ability to ask for, you know, to look at that kind of thing from an erosion control standpoint.
Okay, that's about it.
Thank you, Mr. Floyd.
Okay, thank you.
Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either, yes, sir, would you please? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Do you have anything you'd like to say, Mr.? Questions, comments from the board? All right. Did you have?
To answer his question about additional land, this phase is it's 11 acres per sibling, which is actually the next item on the list. Go and talk about it now. It's about 11 acres per sibling, and it's right now that's the plan is to do a total of 22 acres total and no more for this phase. As far as what we're going to do at the very end, it's ultimately up to the owners. You know, we just dig it and pay them a royalty to. Full disclosure here, we just pay them a royalty for every load that gets out of there. The state requires us to provide them a reclamation plan. This entire surface mine is regulated by the state. They come down randomly during the year and check things and make sure everything's good. We turn in water quality reports throughout the year. The county road is dusty. He's 100% right. This is an ash road that we come onto. It's probably 500 foot or so from Blue Jay, and it's dusty. We run a water truck best we can, but it's a long ways in there. It's hard to, when you're running a bunch of trucks, it's hard to keep it wet like it should be. So I will try to do better with that. And you know, some days we don't run any trucks, and some days there's a pile of trucks in there. So he's got an argument, but I will, you know, do the best we can to try to get some more water out there.
Everybody good? Anything further from the board? Call for a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve with staff recommended.
Motion for approval. You have anything to add to that?
No, just.
Have a motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Smith. Mr. Smith, second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Item 10 is a public hearing for Jeffrey Harden as agent for Donald R. Shrum and Donna A. Shrum. Request to rezone 11 plus or minus of 91.83 acres from AR1 to I1 to allow for the expansion of a surface mine located on Low Ground Road. So first district,
This is,
same thing.
this is the parcel adjacent to the previous item. So same situation, expansion of 11 acres. I think the only other thing I would add is that there are other surface mines in the immediate area. Staff is recommending approval of this expansion.
All right. Mr. Harden, I mean, I guess same comments as before.
Yes, sir, same thing, just the other sibling, mirroring the same project.
Questions, comments at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? Call for a motion.
Make a motion to approve with staff recommended conditions.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mr. Zipper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, gentlemen. Item 11 is a sketch plan for Ashley Mosley as agent for Victor Vanderlut. Requests approval of a sketch plan for Savannah Marine Terminal Bloomingdale transloading facility located on Old River Road, Zone I-1. This is the first district. Good evening.
Hey.
Ms. Dunnigan, do you want to go?
I defer to Ms. Concanon.
I'm sorry, what?
Cannon?
Okay, I'll try. So this was before you a few months ago, and this is a very similar plan to what you saw then. The issue, when it came to the Board of Commissioners, they denied it because there was still uncertainty they felt over the pads dedicated to, Katie, if you could move it forward, the sketch plan. So because originally when it was rezoned, the concept plan showed something very similar to this. But then when we received the sketch plan a few months ago, it showed a somewhat different configuration with more container pads. And even though that was revised before before the planning board, right around the planning board, and then certainly was in place before the Board of Commissioners, they felt there was still enough uncertainty that they didn't want to approve a sketch plan that could turn into something that wasn't anticipated. So that was denied. Mr. Vanderluck resubmitted, and this sketch plan, I think with some very minor revisions, is essentially what we've been looking at. This is very similar to the original concept plan, and that's why staff are recommending approval. It's essentially the same as what we were originally offered a few years ago when the rezoning took place. The only thing we added was that as a condition that the stacking of containers using any stacking equipment on site is prohibited, because this parcel was approved for reductions of the buffer, and so it was never anticipated to be any sort of container storage yard. It just was not anticipated. It was anticipated to be log and grain export with, incidental use of containers on site. So, looking at it from a different perspective, even with 15 pads for containers, some might see that as a place, to stack containers. That is expressly prohibited in this case, though. But other than that, staff are recommending approval of the sketch plan.
Thank you. Yes, sir.
We went back to the original plan, what it was zoned for. I think council had a concern with stacking and the number of containers shown. So I think we've made assurances that they weren't going to do any stacking. Gotten back to a number of containers that were shown on the original rezoning application. Basically took the layout that was used for rezoning and just used it again for this. So hopefully we were able to address all the concerns of the council.
Questions, comments at this time?
So the sketch plan that's on the screen right now is what we're
If you take a step back, you can see it.
15
Yeah.
container pads.
We added some trees in the front, but that's basically, you know, what went before council or last time. So the only things that's changed is we added some trees in the front as a visual screen. I think that's what everyone's concern is they just, you know, they want it to be screened visually, so.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, I mean, I agree, with the trees up along Old River Road, then you kind of have the office to help, you know, block it the way the entrance runs in.
Yeah, I think it addresses Old River Road pretty well.
Yeah, I do too.
Considering the fact, the only thing I know the staff report says limited to, no stacking. It's just, I didn't see a note on the actual sketch plan that says that, or maybe I can't see it. Just so it's clear in the future when somebody pulls that sketch plan out.
Well, if this is approved by the Board of Commissioners, we'll follow up with a notice to proceed.
Okay.
Conditions that are added will be listed there, and then when it goes to site development plan review,
You'll
the
address it.
reviewers will have access to that, and we'll know to refer to it.
Okay.
Okay, questions, comments? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak on this sketch plan? Call for a motion.
I'm making a motion to approve with, staff recommendations.
Motion for approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Second. All's in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you. Thank you, sir. Teresa. Let the deputy, we're good. Item, let's see, we skipped, what, 12, 13, and 14, and we're on item 15. Thank you. Have a good evening. I'm sure you didn't want to stick around much more and listen to this exciting business. Item 15 is a public hearing for Cindy House as agent for Lisa E. Phillips, CTAL, request to rezone 39.27 acres from AR1 to I1 for future industrial use located on Old Augusta Road and Abercorn Road. This is the 5th district, and this had been postponed. Ms. Dunnigan.
Yes, this item had been previously postponed. It had been sort of following on the heels of this conglomerate industrial rezoning in the area. It's, since its postponement, at least, well, one of the owners that the applicant is representing has dropped out, which is a severe decrease in acreage. There is a high level of wetlands present in the area. There is good industrial surrounding. Staff is recommending denial largely because there is no cohesive concept plan for these parcels. There was a variance application that was not accepted in conjunction with this rezoning application because, again, there's no concept, there's no cohesive plan, and the parcels on their own are not suitable or usable as industrial properties.
All right.
And y'all originally.
Thank you, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, Ms. House.
I don't know if y'all want me to preach my sermon or not. The county has put these people in the situation that they're in. This area is gonna be industrial. There is a lot of wetlands that you can see, which is why the one parcel took it out. Hers is in Cuba, and she left it in Cuba. The rest of it, I mean, you've got industrial all around it. Right across Abercorn Road is industrial. On the other side of Old Augusta Road, all of that is industrial. I mean,
Can I interrupt you? What are the stars?
Those are representing the parcels that are part of the application to rezone to industrial.
Okay. And so the one parcel was taken out because of Cuva.
Right.
Correct.
Which
Yes.
parcel is that, the one in
The one in the
between the
middle?
stars?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
Right in
it's
there.
that
That's
one.
all wetlands, correct?
It's all wetlands and it's not usable. We've had 2 different wetland studies done and that land is just too low to be
Would you
used.
be able to access the rear parcels from the front parcel?
If you come across, yes, and you could even purchase wetland credit and go across the back of that.
Without-
She is willing to sell, I mean, she's got it listed right now, so she is willing to sell it. And if there needs to be an easement purchased across it, that's not a problem. So
you could do
that
without
part is not a
accessing from the
problem,
north?
right. I've met with Chance Rand that's doing the stature investments, the large project that's already been approved and is already underway. He is the one that suggested go ahead and ask for the variance as we move through the zoning. Y'all, we've gotta help these folks. I mean, this area is gonna be nothing but industrial. The county's created the problem, so now we need to do whatever we can to fix it. So all I'm asking is help.
I'm sorry, what variance are you referring to?
Well, they denied, they didn't let me, I applied for a variance, but they said it couldn't go through. But I was asking, because of so much wetlands, if they could, change the recommendation from the 300-foot barrier to the 100-foot barrier, like you did with stature investments, so that more of the land that could be used would be usable. Basically, on the rectangular piece in the back with the 2 arrows, if you already have industrial on this side, it would push it over into the wetlands. Basically, that barrier would be in the wetlands. And same thing with the other, you would use a lot of the wetlands area as your barrier.
So,
We don't have a buyer at this moment. We did, and the buyers backed out. So right now, we don't have a concept plan drawn up,
so you're
trying to get it sellable.
you're gonna take the front parcels and that will be your access to Old Augusta. And then you'll come through, is that Miss Igos that you took
Yes.
out? You'll come
Yes.
through Miss Igos to get to the back parcels?
Right, that is correct.
So would the property owners / applicant be willing to have a limitation put on those 2 that are on Abercorn without access, that they could not get access to Abercorn? So there's something that's got to be figured out one way or the other to get back to Old Augusta?
Yeah.
I didn't quite understand what I couldn't
He's
hear
saying
exactly.
that, the limitation, the county's putting a limitation that.
Miss House, could you come to the microphone, please? I'm sorry.
So the county wants the, entrance and exit to y'all's property off of Old Augusta Road.
I understand.
And we'd have to buy an easement through
Basically, no big
Nels.
truck traffic on
Yeah.
Abercorn.
Right.
We're fine with that.
I mean,
Yeah.
and I know big trucks can get on there, cause we watched them for 6 months while they built that seawall, before they paved.
Right.
It's stuff that is possible. But
Gotcha.
yes, I understand.
Question, comments? Go ahead.
I mean, that's the only path forward I would see on it, just put the limitation. I'm not an attorney, I'd have to see if that's even doable, since that's the only access those 2 parcels have right now. So I don't know if we could even do that. You kidding?
I'm not speaking, you're looking at me, so I'm
Right,
gonna
no,
answer.
you're shaking your head with me, so I didn't know.
It-
I mean, that seems to be the only mechanism I could see a path forward for it, because those 2 pieces have no access to Old Augusta.
It's unlikely that access to Abercorn Road could be approved, given that it's a county road, it's just been repaved. We're not planning to widen it. It's not suitable for truck traffic. I mean, that's really why staff recommended approval based on a number of factors, and Abercorn Road was one of them. Or
You
recommended
mean?
denial, I'm sorry,
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
right. So, I mean, me personally, I mean, I agree with Katie. I mean, I would like to see this, I was excited when Chance went back to work and tried to procure all these properties and put them all together, and put it together, so that it's all done together. But I too agree with you that now they're left in an they're in the middle of industrial, because there's industrial
Right.
across the road.
Well, it's industrial all around them, all
Yeah,
around
yeah.
them.
And they're
And-
surrounded by it.
Yes.
And the only reason they won't rezone that center parcel, they don't want to lose the CUVA credits and have to pay all that
Right.
money.
Right. And then the one on the corner is refusing to sell right now. I think at some point, that one on the corner is gonna sell
Yeah,
too.
they holding out for more money.
I don't know what they're holding out for,
told Kent.
but they are holding out. But everybody else wants to sell, and the last time I talked with Chance, he was gonna try to talk to his group and come on around. But I think their project has slowed way down, and, I mean, they've got approval. But, I don't know, I haven't heard anything back from him recently.
All right, are there any further questions or comments from Ms. House at this time? Is there anyone else who wishes to speak, either in favor or against this request?
Hey, I'm Lisa Phillips. I live at 270 Abercorn Road, which is the two parcels in the back. And I just would like to support what Cindy, Ms. House is saying. It's very difficult, you know, when this all started, you know, that's been our residential home for years, for 25 years, and we were very happy down there, but industry has come to that area. And we would just really like to ask you guys, and I'm gonna, you know, go to the next level at the county commission next. Since the situation is what it is, you know, just don't leave us cut off down there, because that's basically what's gonna happen if we're not able to go industrial. You know, we're gonna lose our residential value, and then we're gonna be the only one cut off down there. So I'm just asking you guys to consider that, and it's been a unique situation because all the properties have been cut up in small parts, and we just need to be consistent with what the area has been zoned around us.
Would you be against, Ms. Phillips, a stipulation that if we approved that we would say that your two lots could not be accessed from Old Augusta Road?
No, there would be access.
You mean,
There would be.
Abercorn.
Yeah.
Pardon me, from Abercorn.
Right. Would we?
Right.
Yeah, we're fine with coming in from Old Augusta. I mean, that makes sense. That's a truck route.
Right.
And that makes sense. I mean, we're willing to work with you know, with the industry to make it more feasible for down there.
Okay.
All right, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
Yeah, my name is Robert Jovan. I live on parcel 5 of this on Old Augusta Road. And I'm gonna ask you to go ahead and approve this. As best I can tell, you don't approve industrial unless you have a buyer with a plan. We don't have that. But what we have is we have a lack of interest because we're not rezoned. I had land or a sale on my land, signed contracts, et cetera. It was dropped because it didn't get rezoned. And now nobody seems to want to touch it until it gets rezoned. You know, naturally, somebody's putting industrial in, doesn't want to buy residential, hoping it gets rezoned. And they're certainly not going to pay you worth a darn for residential. So I ask that you take that in consideration. Thank you.
So, is there anyone else that wishes to speak either in favor or against this request? If there's nothing further from the board, I'll call for a motion.
Okay, I'll make a motion for approval based on the 6 recommendations that the county staff has pointed out. But I'd like to add that one special stipulation that the back parcels 477-6 and 477-7 can only have access to that property through Old Augusta Road and not through
Yeah,
I
that's
have
it.
a motion on the floor. Any discussion, questions? Call for a second.
I'll second it.
Second, Ms. Zipper. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you.
Can I ask one more thing, Dave? I'm
Yes.
sorry.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, how about I know they said the variance could not go through, could not even be considered, but that's gonna be a big issue with somebody purchasing that property, is how much will it be?
Variance, was that 14? Is that what the variance was?
They didn't put it on the agenda.
No, that was Goshen Road, I'm sorry.
Yeah, they didn't put it on the agenda.
The application was not accepted.
I don't understand the question. Ma'am, could you ask that question?
So can it be considered that variance to make it where it's more usable space for whoever's trying to purchase the property? The people that are coming in trying to purchase industrial property, they want all of this already done and ready for them to come in and submit their concept plan. I mean, they do have to come back in front of y'all. But we had applied and they said we couldn't ask y'all for that variance.
Couldn't apply for the variance before it was rezoned, is that correct? Is that what?
And, you know, I'll lean a bit on Teresa to fill in any blanks, but without any sort of concept and showing what the variance is from, it was not a complete application and it could not move forward.
I see. Without a sketch plan, without a conceptual, without a plan, I mean, showing what buffers were,
Correct.
that makes sense?
Okay,
Can you
so
put a
if we,
map up that shows the industrial, all the industrial area?
it's all of the red is industrial now.
So the
And the
only
water
place
treatment
the
plant.
variance would be required would be that
Be-
little strip of blue wetlands on Abercorn by the river, correct?
That's Billy's property.
Except for that property that's not selling.
Right.
The wetlands in the center.
Right.
Oh, and that
Yeah,
strip, that's not
right.
part of it too, the corner piece that's been left there to fend for itself in the future, I guess, but that'll,
Well, she actually had hers on to be rezoned. But what's happened is buyers, as they've gone out to look at the property, it's wetlands. She wants to sell it, but it's not usable for industrial. 'Cause
If it's butting up against the existing industrial, we usually waive the variance anyway because it's industrial, but.
right, but it's gonna have, that piece would still be.
Well,
zoned.
it's industrial to
Buffer
industrial.
Pardon?
It has buffer value.
But it,
Right, it does, but that's the only value that it has. And they're not willing to pay that kind, the big
so
money
let's
just
get back
to
to the
sit on.
question that you asked and we're gonna move on. The only variance you're talking about is gonna be what Alan said. We're not talking about next to the red, correct? Cause that's already
Right, 'cause
industrial
that's
to
already
industrial.
There's a
industrial.
buffer requirement between any zoning districts.
Yeah,
We
but
didn't
it's-
have a site plan. It was an invalid application. We simply could not accept it. I mean, it just was not a valid application without a site plan.
Right. But it's
But it's not gonna be an
It's
issue
not
where
300
it butts
feet.
industrial anyway.
It's 25 foot
yeah, it's 25 feet and 25 feet.
between
And it's
industrial,
all, we've never waived that.
Really?
No.
unless it's common
I thought
ownership,
all
and
that
then we
stuff on
have.
21 in Rankin we did.
Oh, common ownership only. So further down on
Oh,
Old
common
Augusta
ownership,
Road,
okay.
Yeah.
the kick lighter and
Some of it.
McCormick
Yeah.
trucks.
Well, yes.
So
Yeah,
internal.
that's correct.
When it's
Internally,
multiple parcels
yes.
owned by the same,
Alright.
then we take care of it.
But
Yeah,
to
that was,
answer the
that was
question-
on Old Augusta too, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Her question,
Yeah,
they
that's
did
right.
get noticed, we can't consider that.
But we had a full sketch
I mean, you're not
plan.
asking us to
Had
consider that
everything we
tonight,
needed
are
for
you?
that.
No, I just want, I just want to know in other words, is that gonna be a problem for a buyer coming in?
I don't think so.
Okay, so what y'all are saying, so the guy on the corner of Abercorn and Old Augusta, that is still a residence?
Yes, ma'am.
And he's all surrounded completely by industrial. So what is the barrier gonna have to be?
It's 300 feet.
That's what I'm asking. Can we lower that to 100 feet
If you file a variance application
with a sketch plan?
with, that's completed,
or even a concept. We didn't.
Then
have
it would
be
be,
a s-
then it would be
have to be a sketch
considered.
plan, right? A
Well,
concept
that's what I had asked, and I was just told it couldn't even be considered. So if I get an engineer to draw up something, a concept plan showing where that barrier is gonna go, can I bring it back forward and have it?
We need a concept plan. I mean, we need to see what the proposal is and how the parcels will be linked and whether it will be an easement, a private road through the wetlands. We need like a plan that is doable. That's what we had for the parcels further south. We had a fully, I mean, we had the ultimate, we had a fully engineered concept plan, which is not what we require, but we had it.
Okay.
Ideally, you're just gonna have to acquire that piece of property.
All right, thank you.
And the middle property, the wetlands property is listed for sale. She just didn't wanna carry it through with the rezoning right now because it's really not usable.
Thank you, Ms. House. Thank y'all. Item 16 is a sketch plan for Daniel Ben Yisrael as agent for Claude M. and Elizabeth E. Kicklighter. Request approval of a sketch plan for Parker's Convenience Store, Old Augusta Road, located on Old Augusta Road, Zone B3. This is the 5th District. Ms. Dunnigan?
I defer to Ms. Concanon.
Sorry.
Yeah, I just.
Ms.
We're still getting used to
Concanon?
it.
Okay, so this, we had an initial sketch plan pre-application meeting back in June with this and another project, and at the time, the county engineer did make some points about access, proposed access onto Moultrie Drive. Moultrie Drive, if just, yeah, if we could just leave the sketch plan, there we go. So it's proposed access onto Moultrie Drive, as well as Old Augusta, as well as Highway 21. The Moultrie Drive, I just want to point out, though, that is a private road. Jasper Village, which is now known as Leo at the Sanctuary, is a private multifamily development. The interior infrastructure is all completely private. So when we had a sketch plan pre-application meeting and saw this plan that showed access from the proposed convenience store to Moultrie Drive, we did push back a little bit, and the county engineer did indicate that we would require that trucks be prohibited. I mean, we could not, as a county, we don't really have authority to allow heavy traffic onto a private road. That's really between the owner of Leo at the Sanctuary and the Parker's development team. But he did indicate, and I believe we would, that is something we've kept in the staff report, that a barrier of some sort will be required at that entrance to ensure that no truck traffic goes onto that private road, because it is a narrow road. It goes in, at that point, it would go into, school bus stop, the entrance to the clubhouse. It's a very congested little entrance to Leo at the Sanctuary, so there is some concern there. However, there are two other entrances. There's a right-in, right-out proposed for Highway 21 and Old Augusta Road, and those ones are fine. Although, since the initial meeting, we have adopted and readopted the access management policy, so there is some concern there about spacing of driveways. If this were to be approved and go forward for full site plan review, our engineers will be looking at the access management and will probably require certainly will require a transportation impact assessment, and that may be used to evaluate whether, the entrances at Moultrie Drive need to be improved, as well as any particular upgrades for the right-in, right-outs proposed for Old Augusta and Highway 21. Let's see, I've got a few other things here. So the parcel was rezoned to B3 in 2006, and that's a little unusual. It was rezoned a long time ago, and that's why with the submittal of a sketch plan, that's what triggered the regional review. Normally the rezoning triggers it, but at the time it was part of a much larger tract, and it was envisioned as part of a B3 commercial corridor along Old Augusta Road. Well, development times have changed, or the economy changed, and the parcel was subdivided differently, and at this point, this small B3 section is what is left and what we're discussing tonight. So the rezoning, happened in 2006, and at this time we have the sketch plan that triggered a regional review because the sketch plan shows potentially 4 diesel pumps, and that triggers a regional review. And in response to that regional review, City of Savannah did submit comments relating to the fact that this property, everything along here, in fact, along Old Augusta Road in this area, is in their inner management zone for Abercorn Creek, and they are requesting and recommending that the site design include spill responses, site management, and stormwater management adequate to protect the drinking water supplies of Abercorn Creek. There is apparently a plan to, Katie, maybe you can move the cursor around and show, there's a plan potentially to add additional acreage at the Moultrie Drive portion. Yeah, there's 0.343 acres there in that little rectangle. And so the proposed access to Moultrie Drive would then become, would be on land that is part of the Parker's development. That has not gone forward. It's currently zoned R3. The Parker's development is zoned B3. There's not that we know of, there's not, as far as we know, a problem with running the road from a B3 through an R3. That's not an issue. But if the parcels were to be combined, so that is one development site, that 0.343 acres would have to be rezoned to B3 to match the remainder. Yeah, here's the parcel that was sent to us, or the plat. The site development plans also don't currently show the required 20-foot vegetative buffer, but the sketch plan, is very detailed in some ways and not in others. But that's there is some room for maneuvering in the sketch plan process in that we don't actually require an engineered plan, but in this case we do have one. So as we move into once approved, as we move into site plan review, we would be watching out for the required 20-foot buffer between R3 and B3. A GDOT encroachment permit is going to be required for access to Highway 21, and of course a county encroachment permit would be required for access onto Old Augusta Road. And and I mentioned that the traffic impact assessment will handle or will consider the need for any access and intersection design and improvements. And just on a final note, at I think their last commissioners meeting, the last board meeting, the commissioners adopted the Old Augusta Road corridor study, which does show, this project was known and anticipated and included in consideration. So, we are looking to include this. We've anticipated this in our planning for the Old Augusta Road corridor and any intersection improvements, roundabouts, anything that might happen along that way.
So that plan.
Thank you.
I'm so sorry. That
You're
plan.
good. Go ahead.
Sorry, Mr. Chairman, you go ahead.
Yeah, you go ahead. You're good.
So that plan does show access on the northbound side of 21 north into the site right there.
It does.
Where the cursor is,
Mhm.
and on Old Augusta Road, and then possibly on Moultrie coming back in from the subdivision. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so there's 3 entrances, correct?
Yeah.
Yep, 3 inches is proposed.
I mean, you gentlemen wish to.
Good afternoon, I'm Rusty Windsor with Kimley Horn. And the answer to your question is yes, there's 3 accesses. One on Old Augusta, one on Highway 21, and one on Moultrie.
I see it, yeah.
I mean, can I ask why you felt necessary to put that one at the beginning of the subdivision?
That is the only full access that the property will have for, for cars only, but it's only left out of the development. Everything else is right in, right out.
If I can follow up on that, I mean, I guess I'm a little confused as to the ownership of where the access point is, because we've got a email with some concerns from the management of that, and I would assume that, is that a completely separate parcel that they both have access rights that's defined going to that entrance, or what defines the, there we go. Okay, so there is a separate parcel that's different. If you step back, you can see, I guess, what I'm talking about. But,
yep. The 3B.
Yes. Okay.
And there's
I guess I'm just like, I would assume there's something, not that the county's got control over what 2 property owners or 3 property owners agreed to, but access rights is all I'm saying. If it's not a piece of property that's owned by this piece, how do we confirm that?
when you have two other accesses, I mean, it's not, is it needed?
Well, it makes good sense to put that one on Moultrie so that that community has easy access instead of having to get out on Old Augusta and horseshoe back
Well,
around in.
to that point, they wouldn't be able to get in, period.
But be
they-
on the other side.
Right. Yeah, they can't do a left in off of Old Augusta, they can't do a left in off of 21. They would have to go down on Highway 21, do a U-turn and come back in.
That's not feasible.
Yeah, I wouldn't say from a site plan standpoint, it makes sense. It just, if it's not part of that, I just want to make sure that the
And
I's have been
there's
dotted,
an-
the T's have been crossed, that you've got access rights.
Can I answer his question real quick? So there's an access easement that grants easement from this parcel through Moultrie Drive.
Okay, you answered my question.
You're in Effingham, they're gonna make their own easement anyways.
That answered my question. I just want to make sure.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's very complimentary. Parker's does such a great job with landscaping. And, you know, you're in the doorway of the community.
And then, can I point out one more thing before I answer your question? I can't hardly see it. Right here, where we have this access around, where there's gonna be curbing to keep the, to keep the two accesses apart. We're gonna try, the trucks are going to do a U-turn and come back out on 21, as opposed to trying to, we're trying to minimize any opportunity for trucks to get access to Moultrie. Correct. Yep. They come to here.
And obviously, they don't.
They go up here, U-turn, come right back out.
What is the plan?
Parker didn't risk all those people coming in and out.
Especially kids.
Can't have enough.
So what is the future?
Hold on. I feel like we're getting out of control.
So there's two lots involved here, Lot 1 and Lot 2, correct?
Correct.
So what's
Not in the sketch plan, that's news that came to us after the fact, the possibility of adding the .343 acres.
Okay.
The sketch plan and what we were originally presented with is just the parcel 4782B, the blue one.
If I may, Mr. Chair.
Yes, sir.
I'm Daniel with Parkers, Daniel Ben Israel, Real Estate Development Manager with Parkers. That small .343 acre piece wasn't captured in our original survey. It was overlooked by the surveyor based on our concept plan, which also excluded it. However, we are under contract to purchase that 3.343 acre piece as well. And as Teresa mentioned, there is an access easement granted to that parcel by the previous owners and the developers of the subdivision.
Great.
I don't know. I mean, I guess my biggest concern is, this letter that we were given, by Tammy Flynn. You familiar with that? She is our regional manager for Sanctuary Community Manager.
Okay.
Let's see, she likes the idea of the Parkers, but the access road through the front entrance of Leo at the sanctuary is a huge issue for us as an aesthetic standpoint, as well as concerns regarding motor vehicle safety, criminal activity, and the preservation of our residents' rights to peaceful enjoyment. And then she cites 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 items that very much concern them about the amount of traffic that's going to be entering and leaving Parkers out that entrance. I mean, this is just me speaking, but I mean, if there was an access road put to Jasper Village so that those people could access Parkers versus a full-blown, I mean, that's a right-in, that's a full-blown double, in and out, right? Entrance, open to everyone. Whereas if we just had more of a private one for, if the concern was how is Jasper Village going to enter Parkers, then I think it could be done a little more limited. Then it wouldn't be open since Parkers already has one on the state route and one on Old Augusta. Just my thoughts. And that's based off of, you know, this concern from those residents as well.
Mr. Chair, if I may, again, I'm sorry, was that, no, sir? You said-
No, yes, sir, you're,
Oh,
just
okay,
feel
okay.
free to.
Okay, got it. I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. If I may, so I think to answer your concern, when we originally designed this site plan, and the question came up of whether or not trucks would try to access the Moultrie Drive section, you know, we talked about putting up height restriction bars and things of that nature to prevent that from happening. But in the end, we decided that an easier fix would be just to put curbing along that section to prevent them, and then kind of direct them back towards Highway 21. As far as other POV traffic, of course, we're not going to be able to prevent a regular patron from leaving the store and then going out that way into that neighborhood. But, I mean, it stands to reason that the only individuals looking to exit that way would be individuals that reside in that community. If not, they're going to make that quick left out of the community and not kind of migrate further back in. So it's going to be minimal impact, in our opinion, to that community. Obviously, if they make a wrong turn, then you have someone that has to, you know, make a U-turn. But we think that the motoring public will figure that out, and it won't be a huge impact to the area.
Excuse me, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add one thing, which is that the Moultrie Drive will not give the benefit of the full left out for very long. Part of the approved Old Augusta Road Corridor Study is included in your packet and was also submitted to the applicants at one point. But they're actually going to remove the left out of Moultrie Drive.
So it's gonna be an R cut.
Yeah, it's an R cut.
Yeah.
And then they're gonna make everybody go down the street and do a U-turn.
Yep.
On Old Augusta.
Yep.
Even better, that's less traffic going that way. Yep.
Not if you live there. No, I mean, it's not better for them. They go out to make that U-turn now. That's nothing to do with y'all's thing.
Right, yeah. Yeah, definitely not better for them coming out of there, out of their neighborhood.
Is that a rental community?
Yeah.
Yes.
All right. Is there any further discussion on the sketch plan? Ms. Teresa, have you heard anything that changes, any thoughts of yours?
No, I mean, in general, I mean, we're recommending approval, but given the variety and complexity of the issues here, it seems like there was continually new information coming in. We're very cautious about, recommending full 100% approval.
Yeah, so that's the reason it's conditional approval?
So is that conditional, like upon coming
Well,
back here, or?
No, not at all. This will go before the Board of Commissioners, and, they're just as aware of the corridor study. We just, had that presentation at our last meeting. It was just really a note of caution that we couldn't give full 100% support given the number of small issues that are in the in the sketch plan.
All right. Nothing further, I'll call for a motion.
I'll make a motion for approval, conditional approval of the sketch plan.
Motion for approval, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, all's in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried by all. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Item 17 is ordinance revision, discussion, and recommendations for proposed amendment to Article 2. This is R3 multifamily, single-family residential, single-family traditional neighborhood design to the Effingham County Code of Ordinances. Ms. Concanon.
All right, so we are, earlier this year, the county enacted a moratorium on rezoning staff accepting rezoning applications for R3 and R6. R3 is our multifamily residential zoning district. R6 was our high-density, single-family residential zoning district. So for several months, staff could not accept applications. And the result of that process was to develop some amendments to R3, which you see there, and they really there's a few changes here and there, but one of the main changes was the section relating to townhouses, calling out townhouses especially, and just giving guidance. In our last revision to R3, we did not plan for townhouses, and immediately upon the earlier moratorium expiring, we were offered applications for townhouse subdivisions in R3. So we felt like we really needed to get a handle on that and establish some guidelines for staff and applicants. So that whole section under 5.6.1.4 is brand new. There are a few updates. I see that your version is not color coded to show the strike through, so I'm sorry about that. But there are a few fixes here and there throughout it, but mainly to just reintroduce townhouses or introduce townhouses and provide some guidance for staff and applicants. So the definitions is the red strike-through version, and that shows you we've clarified what community apartments are. A garden apartment, that we've clarified that and made a garden apartment community and described what that is in our view. We've added a definition for townhouse and also for planned single-family home community, which leads me to the next item, which is R5. It's a brand-new, high-density, single-family residential zoning district, and R5 is in some ways similar to an earlier version of R6. It's high density, allows even smaller lot sizes, but in exchange, we would expect to see enhanced features such as the materials used in home construction. Let me just flip through here. Okay, this is also color coded. So this is all brand new. So it's not. It could have been red, but it's all brand new, and it's going to have the same features as R6 in that it requires access to public water and sewer. It can't be on well and septic with those small lots. Minimum 0.15 acre lot, which was something we saw under an earlier version of R6. So we're sort of going back there. Home occupation would be something that would be permitted, but residential business would not, given the small houses or the small lot size and the more dense development. We felt that residential, the option for someone to have a residential business operating out of their home with the traffic and everything that goes with that would not be permitted. So that's not included. It has the same open space requirement as before, which is 20% of, no it's not, it's 15% of net usable area, so that hasn't changed. Under the planned single-family home community, which is defined, which is in the definition list and which really is in reference to subdivisions that are single-family homes but that are built for the rental market. And so in order to get a handle on that, we have added, we're describing them as planned single-family home communities. And so they could be developed within R5, and there are some specific requirements for communities that would intend to be rental communities. They would be limited in the first year of any CO, of any homes.
It basically doesn't allow it, right?
Oh, it does allow it, absolutely, it allows it. It's just slow introduction, so that in the first year of a CO being occupied, of the COs being occupied, only up to 20% of homes with current COs, with COs less than 1 year old, could be rental homes. So for the
it's
individual,
not going to allow for the REIT TIMOs like we've seen recently to come in and do entire single owner rental communities.
right. Currently, we're aware that several phases of subdivisions that have been approved in the past year are being sold en masse, all the lots being sold at the same time to the same buyer who are building the houses and then turning them all into rental. We had nothing in our ordinances to regulate that as such, so that those will continue.
That won't be allowed.
That is what we are trying to get a handle on to ensure that, especially if they're later phases of existing communities, to ensure that there's not this huge disconnect between existing communities, some of which are R1 in their earlier phases, and which in later phases might have changed to R6, so that there's not this huge disconnect, that there's not the conflicts between HOAs and current sections, and then new owners who maybe don't want to be part of the HOA but want to use amenities. We've already been made aware of some conflicts with HOAs contacting us asking for assistance. So there's potential problems that have come to our attention, and which we're trying to address by in no way prohibiting this kind of activity. Multifamily or rental communities, we don't have any problem with that at all. What we want to make sure is that all homes are built to the same high standard, be they rental or for lived in by the owner, but also that any community that is intended to be rental be eased into that, so that we can all get used to it together.
Can I ask one more question? So the commissioners have already.
Yes, this has.
This is approved.
In order to meet that moratorium expiration without extending it another time, we went ahead and we brought it to the commissioners for discussion. They were happy with it, so they they did a first reading, and we moved quickly, and we did not have to then extend the moratorium another time.
So are we voting on the wording, or are we just voting
Not
on
voting.
the red writing?
This is for information. This is for information.
So do I need to bring my old book back so you can update it?
Do you know where your old book is?
Yeah, he's talking about his zoning
Yeah,
zoning
there's no-
ordinance.
Review it before every meeting.
Okay,
We're not asking for a vote. The staff report doesn't ask for a vote.
Oh, I got a book.
No, he's
Y'all
talking
give
about
me
he's
with
got
all
a
the-
printed copy
his
of the
All the
ordinance.
ordinances. You want me to bring those
Yeah,
back?
we will be printing a new one. There have been a lot of changes.
Because I read it all the time. I want to make
Yeah,
sure I'm up to date.
Brad.
I emailed them to you after this was approved. I
Ready to go. I'm
emailed the new R3 revisions, the brand new R5 district. R6, just to touch on that, will no longer be available as an option for rezoning. Any developer interested in pursuing high-density, single-family residential development can either choose R1 or can pursue PD, although we prefer that to be mix of uses, a mix of housing types. So that would be a negotiation going forward. But R6, as we know it now, is no longer available. Anything currently zoned R6 can and will proceed under the rules in place at the time it was approved. Because we have, we know when it was approved, we know what was in place, and we will proceed with the review, with any site plan review, knowing what was in place at that time. So we're not shutting out old R6.
I got a question on the covenant shall include a provision that no more than 20% of the homes in the community may be rented until at least 12 months has elapsed since the issuance of a CO. So what happens after 12 months?
After a home has been built and sitting there existing for 12 months, presumably purchased by someone who intends to live there, if they choose, if they're deployed, if they're relocated due to a job, they can certainly rent it. This isn't intended to shut out or kill the rental market at all. This is to get a handle on a new type of development that we're seeing. And so
what we don't want is a complete rental community, like we already have some of.
in this,
The commissioners.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yes, going forward, single-family home rental communities, new ones would come in under this zoning district. So any existing, so later phases of some divisions that have been approved this year, we know that they've been sold to a single buyer. There's no regulation on the book at that time to address that. New rezonings only. So any developer coming to us with a proposal for a new R5 subdivision would be subject, and if it was to be eventually a rental, single ownership of the entire tract, they would be subject to these restrictions.
So it stops the hedge funds from coming in and buying 500 acres and building a complete rental community.
Well, I'm not sure if we know it'll stop anything. What we're trying to do is identify problems that we see and address them as we,
I mean, there's no, I mean, we all work for the commissioners. I mean, there's no doubt several of them have strongly been against that type of development. I'm not real sure where I stand. I might even, in some cases, kind of like it, but They're the elected officials, and that is why this is written.
Right, absolutely. There's pros and cons to either side. You know, there's some, you know, you could easily come up with a list of pros, but also a list of cons. It's new, and
Right.
so we're, you know, just getting used to it and finding out what works best for us and our new developers.
Can I just ask a couple of clarification things? So for R3, the density is based off of the gross acreage, not the net usable acreage? You know? No, I'm not trying to get you with a gotcha. I just want to clarify for myself for the future to understand that, because just they adding the townhome standards in there is a good thing,
So
because
you're
that
taking,
non-unit.
you're saying you're taking the wetlands out?
Oh, I'm hoping it's not. I'm hoping it's gross. And if you've
Gross.
got a good site that you could actually do.
Yeah, it's gross acreage. The only time we go to net usable is for open space calculations. So if there are also wetlands, that's a bonus to the open space advocate. You know, there's extra open space coming out then.
I just want to convert it, because 9 units to the acre, if it was a total upland site, that's on the upper end of townhome density, right? So you could never achieve, unless you put a massive amount of open space. So I just wanted to, if that's good to me that we can do that. And then the R5, the title of it is traditional neighborhood, but there's nothing in there that requires like rear loaded or
That's
access
accommodated, and in
it's
fact,
accommodated, but it's not required.
oh, it's not required except unless the applicant wishes to have 22-foot paving, in which case it would be required.
Yeah, just when I typically hear traditional neighborhood development, sometimes that's an absolute must that you have to be rear loaded. And just
But
wanted
this
to make sure.
accommodates that, so we felt we could use that.
Okay.
Any other questions? Just one more clarification. So we're voting now on these definitions.
You're not
which are-
voting, no.
Oh, we're
this
not,
is-
it's just discussion?
It was a report,
Okay.
just to let you know what we did in response to the
Okay.
moratorium.
Just telling you this.
So once again, the next one, we're just discussing as well?
We're discussing, and this one is, we're much earlier in the process. So at the last commissioners' meeting, we had a report to them on our proposal, and they said that they were prepared for us to run with that. And so on our December 6th board agenda, we will be submitting a first reading for this. So your input at this time can make a difference on the industrial okay, so first of all, there is a moratorium at this, as of last Tuesday night, there's a moratorium on accepting rezonings in industrial, all industrial moratorium, for 2 reasons. One, so that we can get this language written and approved before the moratorium expires on January 4th, and also so that we can get language on surface mines written and approved before the moratorium expires on January 4th. So I have here the language that the commissioners saw at their last meeting last week relating to our proposals for shipping container facilities. And that is, again, adding new definitions. Oh, wait, what's going on here? Looks like the definitions, okay, so it's 3.3.3. So we've got a definition for shipping container, and we've also got a definition for, oh, I'm looking at the wrong one. I'm sorry, I'm looking at general provisions. The definitions, the second page is definitions. So we're proposing a new definition for shipping container and a new definition for shipping container facility. So we have something in the books. The first page in your packet, though, there is under general provisions. This wasn't really part of the original order of, let's get regulations for shipping container facilities. But as staff, we received frequent queries from the public about how they can site a shipping container on their personal property for personal storage. And we wanted to include this since we were covering shipping containers, and the commissioners were agreeable to that. And so you see in front of you a mixture of recent staff input, but also some input from the consultants that are currently working on our overall zoning. So it's kind of a hybridized proposal to make some housekeeping improvements to our existing accessory structure section 3.3, and also accessory structures in AR1 and AR2, section 3.3.2, which is where we would propose to allow shipping containers for personal use. At this time, there are no regulations. Staff can't say or do anything about shipping containers. At the most, we can treat them like an accessory building, so we can if an application, a permit application is submitted, we can do a site plan review and we can hold them to setback requirements for accessory buildings, or at least that's what we've been doing. And this is an attempt to get language to help us, guide us through that process, but also to provide guidance to applicants. And input is welcome at this time. We still can make adjustments. Moving on, the industrial zoning district requires some small changes, and that is mainly because the proposal is to list shipping container facilities as a conditional use under the heavy industrial zoning district, just as junkyards were added a few years ago under this district. Now we're proposing to add shipping container facilities as a conditional use. So the red font you see in the industrial zoning district pages, that's the only new language. And this is so the shipping container facility, that's new. The others are actually resulting from a review that staff had with the county attorney over a year ago, where we were looking at a different type of change. But the changes he recommended at that time were, again, housekeeping, and I've decided to go ahead and roll them in and get them taken care of now, rather than, have, problems come up later. So this is really just fixing omissions and clarifying language throughout. But the main change is that we are adding shipping container facility as a conditional use in heavy industrial, which means that any applicant who comes to staff and says, I want to do a shipping container facility, now we know what to tell them. We say, oh, you have to be an industrial and you will require conditional use. Whereas before, we knew it would be industrial, but there was, we didn't have anything to back us up, and now we have actual guidance. So in the industrial zoning district, there's, as I said, a few housekeeping fixes, but really fairly minimal. But then we are proposing a brand new section called 3.16A called shipping container facility, which will be a standalone, short, less than 2-page set of guidance for shipping container facility planning. And that includes, in some cases, at the very end of it, we've gone to the surface mine entrance requirements that were adopted in 2020. We've gone there and borrowed some of that language because it's so helpful in thinking about entrances and paving at entrances. But in the initial part, we're really looking at what kind of, we're reiterating that a vegetative buffer is required, that the width of the vegetative buffer in heavy industrial is 300 feet, but we included a recent policy that was adopted by not adopted. The commissioners have, in recent months, consistently approved requests for reductions in buffer width if a berm is included. So for every, foot you go down, for every 1 feet proposed in berm height, the width of the buffer can be reduced by 6 feet.
So can I ask for a clarification on that? Why would we just address that in the shipping container facility portion of it and not go ahead and address it?
Well,
Because,
we want to address this because that will be enshrined in the buffer section when that's updated, but we're not ready to do that yet. So given that this was considered to be a more urgent, the fact that the commissioners adopted a moratorium means that they consider this to be an urgent need to get regulations in place. And as we had in workshops, in a workshop earlier this year, and also in subsequent rezone or variance requests, seen a very consistent movement towards allowing berms in place of buffer, to shrink the buffer to raise the berm.
No doubt, I don't disagree with the consideration, and I guess my follow-up, is it still a variance, though? It's just giving them some support that you've got to go through that?
It would be part of let's see, what do we have here? A variance to the buffer requirements may be requested. What we're doing is offering the condition, a variance is still, in this one, I see where you're going. In this one, a variance is still requested or required, but we're showing what we want to hear, what we'll accept, the kind of language that that we're open to. Going forward, when we finally have the buffer section of the ordinance up for readoption, we will more than likely build into that the either or, but I'm not sure. We have to probably have another workshop. Well, we do have to have another workshop, the commissioners, to find out whether that should be offered as a, you know, option 1, option 2, option 3, that's possible. At this time, this was basically a staff draft that was presented to commissioners last week, and they said, this is good. And in fact, the only thing they want to change is, and I need to go and listen to the recording to be certain, is the very first line there, a shipping container facility shall be required to operate on 50 or more acres. I threw some figures in here and asked specifically for feedback, and they gave me feedback on that. What I'm not certain of is if we settled on 50 or 10. So I'm going to go back and listen to the recording before I submit this to the next agenda. There was a great deal of discussion of, do we need to limit the size? And I have to say, I'm not certain of what was decided. There was a long discussion.
What was the height limitation of the containers?
I suggested 2, and this was, again, staff just fleshing out a framework and asking for specific feedback. We suggested stacking to 2 high, and I'm going to have to listen to the recording to find out that was the other one.
200.
Okay, for somewhere I've seen it was 20,
Can't keep up with the,
200.
I mean, I guess one of my biggest thing that jumps out, that jumped out at me was the permitted uses in light industrial. And although I see a lot of things in there that I believe are light industrial businesses, I mean, boat sales and repairs, automotive sales and repairs, florist, a lab. I mean, to me, those are more like commercial businesses.
Certainly, boat sales and automotive sales and repairs, certainly.
Like the florist.
Commercial.
Florist.
Yeah, definitely. Bakery products.
And I mean, and I don't know if this really matters, other than I have seen in the past where people are, and good grief, anymore, this I-1 stamp that goes on those signs is, that's a bad deal for this board.
So is your point just to make sure we have those allowed in B3 districts too?
Well, I would have
Right.
thought.
But I mean, they could be allowed in this too, though, right? I mean, I don't know that it's
Yeah.
right.
So it's also allowed? Is
I
that
don't
what it
know. I
is?
think that's where,
Also allowed?
I'm sorry,
It says all commercial uses are allowed in the I district.
So
Yeah.
why do they need to be specifically?
well, I'm not saying they are, but I think what I was hearing, you said, you felt like those were more of a B,
Yeah.
some district
Yeah.
use, yeah. And I just didn't know if they were already covered in the Bs already, and they're just, for some reason, were added here again.
Well, the boat
No,
sales
usually,
ones are not.
usually if it's listed specifically in I, it's because it's not listed
okay.
anywhere else. But through any commercial use that's listed in B1, B2, B3 can be done in I,
Right.
if one chose to do so. And in addition, light industrial, we haven't touched the list for light industrial, as far as I know, certainly not since I've been here. I think this is the first time I think we've touched industrial at all. Oh, no, I'm sorry, we added junkyards a few years ago, and now the proposal is to add shipping container facility as a conditional use.
I got you.
The
I'm sorry.
commissioners just wanted to
I
be
see what you're
sure that any land currently zoned industrial, we don't oppose the concept of shipping container storage, but we want to be sure that it comes before the board,
I
comes
see,
before you
okay.
guys, comes before the Board of Commissioners, so that staff has an opportunity to require a pre-application meeting and to convey the, information about the conditions, the design guidelines and the performance standards. So this
So
just
this is more about
ensures-
adding the shipping containers to the end.
To address that.
To
So we
address
currently
those
have,
concerns.
we currently have industrial land where shipping containers are being stacked. And we've had no way to really do anything about that. It's part of an existing business, it's just an outgrowth of their current needs. But with so much industrial zone land in the county and the possibility that the focus might shift from warehousing to container storage on some of that land, we want to be sure that we have guidelines in place with staff so that we know what we're talking about, but also so that we have some guidance to offer to applicants.
So I was actually expecting maybe to see some limitation from visibility from public right of way or something like that, because I agree. I mean, there's probably, the containers are going to potentially have a substantial impact on the visibility and, or not the visibility, the aesthetics of any road corridor that they're on.
Give them any reduction in buffer.
And I know it's a conditional use, so technically, I guess we've got the ability to say, well, we don't like the location, so we're not approving that conditional use.
Exactly.
It's just as a place of starting, and I don't know the answer to that, but that would be, that's why I brought that up about the buffer, because it almost, when I read that, it almost reads as we're already giving them a reduced buffer when all the rest of the industrial uses aren't able to get that. Now, I wouldn't want that to be used against or held over the planning board or the county commission in the future, saying your own code says I can reduce it, whereas for that conditional use, I might think it should be double the buffer requirement.
Yeah, I mean, and I saw that as well, and, you know, but it says, you know, once I read it after Teresa said that, you know, requirements may be requested.
Yeah.
They may be requested and they may be approved, but no, I'm kind of like you. It's kind of like you do this and leading it down that path, opening the conversation.
Do you follow, like, if I were looking at the code, I know there's changes happening elsewhere that will be coming forward, but right now, when this gets adopted, assuming that's in there, I mean, if I were Mr. Yellen, I think I would point to that point and say, no, like you're specifically identified in this one use that y'all are willing to consider this. You know, we want that buffer reduction because it doesn't say that anywhere else in your heavy industrial. So you consider this a use that you're more willing to consider a buffer reduction on. And I'm not, again, I think there's a good, buffer reductions across the board for the industrial is a good thing that we're discussing. I just didn't want that to be potentially used in the future to say, you know, what the code already says that, you know, y'all recognize that the buffer standards should be varied, so we expect you to vary them. Yeah,
You know, staff threw that in there, and we asked for feedback, and because the commissioners have approved at least 2 proposed heavy industrial warehouse developments that included reduction in vegetative buffer width because of the addition of a berm height. We threw it in there, and they were agreeable with leaving it there. They liked that it was set down, that the formula was there. So I'm taking that as guidance that going forward, when we do, you know, when we're ready to come back with the full revision to both the buffer section and I-1, if we continue to tweak it, that this will be enshrined in that. But that's a really good point. I can take that up with the county manager and see.
and by all means, if it's going to go the opposite direction where they don't want to consider it at all, I just wanted to, just so we all were clear what we might potentially be asked of in the future. Until that time, it gives this use specifically a little bit of a extra push that you can apply for this variance because it's specific to it.
Well, I mean, any industrial applicant is, you know, when the subject of buffers comes up, we always end up talking about berms, and we tell them this is a formula that's tried and true at this point, and we're happy with it, and we're going to be adopting it, so.
Can I reduce that without a sketch plan?
No.
So once this is adopted on AR1 and AR2 land, you have to apply for a permit to put a container?
Okay, so going back to the individual,
Yeah,
I want one in my backyard.
I'm way behind, but I'm trying to figure this out as I go.
Okay, so going back to the accessory structure, we have some guidance for staff and for applicants. We don't want to see them going on a lot, just sitting there holding the lot, so we're discouraging that by saying they cannot be erected on a lot prior to construction of the principal structure. So we understand people need storage after the house is built, and a shipping container might be an economical way to provide that, but it shouldn't be the only structure on a parcel. First of all, stepping back even further, we're suggesting that AR1 and AR2 are the only appropriate residential districts for shipping containers, because the lots do tend to be larger, not always, but they tend to be larger. Accessory structures, actually, we're not. Look at that.
Are mine grandfathered in? So y'all can't bother me since they've been there, right?
Yeah, we're not gonna, well, we might hunt you down, but nobody else. Okay, shipping container, the language in red is what we need to look at. Shipping container may be utilized as an accessory structure building in AR1 and AR2, provided it conforms to the following. And so we want to see neutral paint. We want, okay, the slab foundation, that's been removed, actually. You got the version. I haven't updated it for the next agenda yet, but this was the draft that we discussed with the commissioners at their last meeting. So B will be removed, slab foundation is not required. Am I correct there? Yeah. Containers, let's see, they have to meet side and rear yard setbacks. Shall not be placed in the front yard. And regular accessory building can actually be placed in the front yard in AR zoning districts if it meets, the regular setbacks. And that was a concession too. We had a great deal of interest a year or so ago in that kind of activity, and haven't heard of one since then. But containers are not included in that. We don't want a container up in the front by the road. They shall not be stacked above the height of a single container. So we do not want to see container stacking on individual lots that are not industrial. The real limiting factor here is the number of shipping containers in a lot shall be 1 container per acre of land, up to a maximum of 5 on a parcel. So even if you have 20 acres, we would only permit up to 5 unless you start subdividing your property. And obviously, we want to make sure that's done in an orderly.
What if it's on the chassis?
Not in AR, it's not gonna work. Obviously, if you're driving a truck and bring it home, that's different, you're parking your work vehicle. But as far as using a container,
Just shut up, Brad, and let's get this done. Is that what you're saying?
It would still need to be permitted and anchored, so the chassis will not
So if
work.
it's on a chassis, it doesn't count.
You got to anchor a shipping container?
Yes.
We don't want them
Mine
flying
are
around.
grandfathered in.
But you may want to upgrade and improve them and make them safe.
Not now.
And they can't have electricity.
Not now, you will.
If I put anchors on mine, they probably fall apart.
We also made a point to say that they cannot be used as residences, because while, we have certainly had queries about converting shipping containers to residential use, and that's technically possible with the, approval of an engineer stamp on the conversion plans. That's not something we want to see. We don't want people, just adding a container and then hooking it up to water and electric and
Well,
living
some
in it.
people make tiny houses out of it, and they
Yeah,
stack them and
they
make them
do.
2-story.
Right, so our ordinances don't currently accommodate that, but as you know, we accept variance requests for, just tonight's tiny house application. We saw how that was viewed from one point of view. It was fine, it was 525, but looking at the International Building Code, it didn't meet the requirements. So the safest route was to take it through, to get a variance approved so that staff could approve the permit with, guilt-free, and make sure that we're dotting all the i's and crossing the t's. But yes, going forward, we may see, who knows, we may see a lot of requests for conversion of containers to houses, and that time, with the help of our building official, we'll come up with guidelines for that. We've had maybe one or two queries for turning a container into a residential dwelling unit, and that didn't go anywhere, that one on low
I
ground.
think it costs so much to do it because it's just not cost effective.
Right, we're gonna require engineered plans. And it's not to make it too expensive to do, it's to make it safe.
Yeah, even to be able to insulate it properly and
Right.
everything, it's just not,
Right.
Money-wise, it's not worth it.
But,
All right,
but so like a farmer that's storing he's got 250 acres and he wants to store
Well,
something inside.
You got
that.
5.
Under these guidelines, we would permit only 5 per parcel number. Obviously, if he comes back and says, well, I've got this whole other section of my farm in the same parcel, we're gonna talk to that farmer and then either take it to the board or, well, at that point, we'd have to take it back to the board.
Different
for-
scenario.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an unusual scenario. We haven't heard of that one yet.
Zone it AR1 and subdivide it into 200 lots.
No. Well, then it's a major subdivision, and then it's an industrial park and a shipping container facility.
You're getting 200 shipping containers.
All right, thank you, Ms. Teresa. 19, change of meeting dates. Discussion and vote on reschedule of upcoming county board meeting dates to the 3rd Wednesday of the month. Ms. Katie.
Yes, so the way and this is something you will need to vote on, if nothing else, to approve the changes to the scheduled meeting dates. The way it lines up right now, the 3rd Monday of every month, it does consistently hit 3 holidays when county offices are closed. And I will not speculate on future dates of parades, but we will keep a close eye on that as well. So for now, for for the foreseeable future, just to keep everything sort of cycling smoothly, like you to consider approving the date changes. You may wish to also, discuss whether the third Monday of the month, if this is going to keep happening, is worth it, or if it's better to move it to a not Monday or a second Monday or whatever you'd like.
I mean, I know Wednesday is, church, a lot of people go to church, or I go to Bible study.
I play cards at my brother's every Wednesday.
Oh.
I mean,
Y'all gamble? I'm gonna send the sheriff over to lock you up.
He plays with us. What you talking about?
I mean, so the third Wednesday was just recommended because it was close to keep things on track. It really doesn't matter if you wanted to do the second Thursday. It's really up to you.
So the
But
commissioners meet first
and third Tuesday.
third Tuesdays.
Right.
So the third Wednesday, does that keep y'all on track, like y'all had hoped it would, moving from the fourth to the third? Because we moved from fourth Monday
Correct,
to
it
third
was.
Monday.
so it takes half the week out.
But you did that to speed up the time in between.
It gave them more time to get the books prepared for
No,
the
it gave us less time to turn around the staff reports to the commissioners. Katie will have to turn around tonight's staff reports to the commissioners in 2 days, tomorrow. Wait,
But
by
if-
Wednesday morning, by Wednesday close of
Is there
business.
ever
But
been
if we were
discussion about?
fourth Monday, it would have given her even less.
Yeah,
time.
we had, a whole month then, but what we did was move back 1 week and then for planning board, but move the commissioners back 2 weeks. So we really compressed the schedule for us, but, we felt it was worth it to reduce the overall wait time. It's just that it's a real tight turnaround, so going from the third Monday.
Well, what day relieves the burden from you guys being up against the timeline?
We have to worry about getting it onto, there's a deadline for us to get it onto the commissioners' agenda. We have to be certain that we're always gonna meet that deadline.
So I wasn't here when the change happened. It changed from the first to the third or the second to the third?
Fourth
Monday,
Used to be the fourth
third
Monday.
Monday.
Third Monday.
So, I mean, was there ever a discussion about making it like the second Tuesday, the off week of the county commissioners, and that way it's not on a long weekend, and it's not, I mean, I'm much more likely to be here on a Tuesday than I am a Monday, weekend or no weekend. I know like Pooler does, because they do two planning commissions each month too, but their city council and planning board are always on Monday, actually. It doesn't help that issue, but they are alternating, right? So I just didn't know if that was ever discussed or consideration. I mean, I would tend to not push it past I think pushing it into Thursday, you lose some people too.
I think we're gonna have to look at the calendar and be certain we can always meet the county clerk's agenda.
Do you
She's
need a
got a
vote?
specific deadline for us to meet every month.
Do you need a vote tonight on December?
As of next month?
Yeah. we're
We
good.
we had not planned on moving that date.
No.
We didn't move it.
No.
Okay.
Um,
It was the 9th?
19th.
Or the
19th.
19th.
Yeah.
It's my 45th birthday, by the way.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday.
I thought
Just
when
saying, I might
said-
not be here. I'm joking.
To those people, you said it was December the
6th is the Board of Commissioners meeting for December. It's December 6th.
19th is us.
Yeah.
Is Mr. Thompson's birthday, yes.
I don't care.
Yeah, oh yeah, you do. Oh yeah, you do.
And we may also wish to entertain meeting slightly early next month and having cookies or something. But, certainly staff can research the feasibility of doing a second Tuesday and get back to you with that. But for tonight, what I need, either in its suggested form or if you have another idea, is to approve these date changes so that we can move forward with that. If we want to change it to the second Tuesday, it will be an ordinance revision, and that's completely fine. But in the meantime, just so that we can keep applicants on cycle and ourselves, I do need for you to.
So this is moving it to the third Wednesday on these particular one,
It's just 2
3,
days,
4.
from a Monday to a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Same week.
On That's
I'd like to
January,
reschedule the
February.
federal holidays,
What's that?
reschedule the federal holidays.
That's three meetings next year, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be 3 meetings every year.
Three meetings
It-
next year.
It will be
and
3 meetings every year, basically, forever and ever, and possibly fourth if it's a parade.
Yeah. We could pretty well guarantee 4 out of the 12 are gonna have issues.
I call for a motion, make a motion to approve this.
I'll make a motion that we approve this, attachment D for the 22 to 23 filing dates and, planning board meeting dates.
May I have a motion to approve, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second, Mrs. Zipper, all's in favor of
Aye.
approval? Any opposed? Motion carried by all.
So we meet the 19th of December.
Thank you. Thank you, Katie, Teresa, y'all did a very good job and a lot of hard work winning this book.
Thank you.
Meeting